Pascal, thank you very much for your time to join Top Investors Talk. So, in the background of the theory of regime shifting, what kind of role that China is playing?
China is a part in this regime. I think that Chinese assets are attractive today for both short-term and more long-term structural considerations. Short-term, basically, what is playing at the moment is a decorrelation of the Chinese cycle and the monetary Chinese cycle in particular from the rest of the global cycle. This is why we are positive on Chinese bonds and currencies, and we are rebuilding positions on Chinese equities on valuation grounds or earnings rebound considerations. On the opposite, in the US, we are cautious on the growth and tech side of the equation.
Yeah.
This is what we are seeing. But more important for me is basically the long-term structural case in favor of Chinese assets. To put it very simply, I see China as the Germany of the 70s and the RMB as the Deutschmark of the 70s. Even more important, from a structural GDP standpoint, since basically we are seeing a shift towards more autonomous growth engines close to consumption and services. Number two, China for me is an oasis of lasting positive real returns.
Pascal, you are pro-China. We both know that. But the year 2021 was remembered by international investors as the year of strong regulation, which shocked many international investors. So how do you see this regulation?
I think it's critical to keep calm, to think beyond the noise, actually, and to basically stick to the long-term benefits of the Chinese story. Initially, some lack of policy clarity was perceived in the investment community, and this has weighted on the Chinese market sentiment in the second half of 2021. If you take the long-term view, this policy is likely to boost competition, productivity, and reduce systemic risks, in my view. And on top of this, part of those policies, there is an objective of increasing the size of the middle class to expand the consumer spending while upgrading the level of consumption, with a focus on high-quality growth, green agenda, and education.
Long-term is right, and then you also said that the international investment community needs some clarification of the policy.
I think the ideal would be to see, starting in 2022, some stabilization of the regulatory basically agenda or framework, actually. Stabilization will help basically to anchor the understanding and the visibility. This combined with the fact that valuations have been hammered and sentiment has fallen, should basically, in my view, be a bright spot from an investor standpoint, actually. I think a positive is is related to the expectations of incremental policy easing with more proactive measure from the government to boost consumption in line with the recent policymaker comments that stability is the top priority.
Yes. Do you worry anything like hard landing?
No, actually. The worries are related to the property sector, which is clearly in a phase of adjustment with actually properly managed in terms of liquidity requirements and policy easing, relaxing near-term liquidity pressures for developers. To be clear, actually, I don't expect a material change or significant material change to modify regarding the housing sector, the view that we will stay in a sort of slowdown process or framework throughout this year. But having said that, the property sector is not the overall economy, actually. And this is important. This property sector at this point is unlikely to derail the rest of the Chinese growth fundamentals.